You guys like comedy? Yeah! All right, me too. My favorite comedian? Gotta be God. Give it up for God, everybody. Life is a confusing joke that makes no sense. A long, strange narrative that ends abruptly. A lot of people say guys aren't funny, but that dude is hilarious. So, give it up for God. Speaking of God, give it up for Lent.
If I had to describe Natasha Muse's comedy to a person who's never seen her, I'd say that she is that moment right before you post or say something funny and that voice in your head says, say it, because it's going to work. That's Natasha. Everything she says, she puts together, works because she knows she's funny because she was born to be funny.
You know what? Now that I get a good look at y'all, maybe we should give it up for adoption.
One of the things about Natasha that I like the most, quality that I really enjoy in a comic, is someone who has a interesting and unusual life experience and now has the craft to tell the tale.
I met my wife before I started doing comedy, and unlike I think any other comedian I've ever heard of, my wife encouraged me to start doing comedy. And also I think she was helping me, encouraging me to get out of the job I had at the restaurant, which was a fun job but wasn't always great for my mental health, I think. So I chose comedy instead.
Natasha's very dark. She is extremely dark. I think it's less evident on stage because when you're doing a stand-up set, it's this real-time feedback cycle. And you need everybody to be comfortable enough that they keep laughing for your entire set, however long that is. But on social media, she can go even darker into these very existential places.
She sort of is really good at like spinning these webs for herself of like, and here's the thing, but maybe I'm that asshole, but maybe I think that I'm that asshole, and maybe that makes me the thing, and but what about the thing, and do I have a point of view, and maybe I don't care, and...
Do you guys still think about being attractive? Is it like a thing that you think about a lot, or... Fuck no, right? Yeah. Because everyone's attractive, or late teens, early 20s, then it's just like a slow slide towards death, right? I feel like I told some of you some things that you like were trying to block out.
Yeah, it's weird. I actually had a conversation with somebody about whether or not if people aren't laughing at what you're doing is comedy. Or like if I cook a dinner and it's, I heated up some food but it's like inedible, that I cook dinner and I just waste a bunch of time and money.
I call her the pun queen of San Francisco. She creates these puns that are so multifaceted. And it reminds me a little bit of if you open a lock with a key, if you've ever seen a movie where they show the pins dropping, that's how it is with Natasha. It's just like pin after pin drops. Whether she's doing stand-up, whether she's tweeting, she's just thinking on a different level.
Because we can't all be beautiful, right? If we were all beautiful, there wouldn't be the word beautiful. We wouldn't need it. Like there's not a word for being covered in skin. Because we're all covered in skin. Now, if you go to brunch tomorrow and Rebecca is, instead of how she usually looks, just like a walking skeleton covered in muscle and a thin sheet of blood, then we need to work on a word for being covered in skin. I vote for skincapsulated.
They're like puzzles. They're like thought puzzles, and if you blink, you'll miss it.
Natasha is Twitter as a person. She has found a way to take humor, life, space, art, put it all together and craft it all into funny jokes that make people think and people appreciate, this form of art.
Natasha's relationship with social media is complicated. She's constantly interrogating this entire process, just hyper aware of the compromises that we're all making to engage on social media. So she's having it both ways.
What she puts out on social media about parenting is so much darker and more twisted than, as a parent, she's so normal.
Children are great. They're like little roommates that you have. Imagine having a roommate that's always naked and sticky. Right, like a little naked, sticky roommate you have a super emotionally intense, non-sexual relationship with, who is borderline mentally ill. Like they're full of life, yet they might accidentally kill themselves at any given time. Just a naked, sticky roommate that might run with joy into traffic at the drop of a hat. And it would be your fault if it happened. That's the fun part. It would be your fault. You would get arrested that day. Which is maybe just as well because your schedule has now been cleared, so.
She manages to get right at the heart of all of the joy and all of the despair that's inherent in parenting.
And I don't know if you guys have a job that you like tell yourself that you love because there's no way that you can quit it without killing yourself, but parenting is like takes a lot of emotional energy to get, like you gotta feed a kid like at least once a day. Like, they're supposed to go to bed like every night. There's all these like big, like they gotta wear clothes, like there's all these things you gotta do. The trick to being a parent is you just need to be perfect. If you can just be a perfect human, parenting is super easy.
I feel like often when there is a comedian with an identity that is new to the world of comedy, that like everything about how they do it is sort of through that lens.
I got an award from the SF Weekly, which is a weekly paper about science fiction, and this is nice. They told me I am the funniest comedian in San Francisco. That would have been great if they had stopped talking there, but I'm the funniest comedian in San Francisco that is also transsexual. Yeah, I didn't clap either. So we're all on the same page there, and all just kind of blankly staring at this part of my body, which is nice. To which I say, hey, my jokes are up here. And that's fun. Every day I'm thankful I didn't name myself Caitlin. That was a bullet dodge. Just brave. So brave, right? And rich. I brought that up to my dad because he and I talk about all kinds of stuff, right? Like from the weather on the West Coast to the weather on the East Coast, there is no topic left untouched.
Yeah, when Natasha talks about her dad and says, we talk about everything, like from the weather on the East Coast to the weather on the West Coast. It is a great and concise way of introducing a painful topic.
But being attracted doesn't mean anything good. It doesn't mean like that you're a good person, right? It doesn't mean that you're smart. It doesn't mean people are gonna like you. It doesn't mean your dad's gonna fly out to California to go to your wedding.
She hasn't tried at all to cultivate a queer audience or to sort of raise her flag in that way. She's just trying to be her full self, which includes but is not limited to being transgender. And in some ways that is more startling and subversive than just talking about it directly.
Like I kind of just like where I am in a way, because I like doing comedy. I'm not worried about becoming famous.
Years ago, during Sketchfest, Natasha was attacked in Golden Gate Park. She had been on the Sketchfest show that was at the Academy of Sciences. After the show, she and some other comics were leaving, and long story short, someone, is a stranger in the park, smashed her across the face with a skateboard, and it was like a day or two later. We had the business. We were still at the Hemlock Tavern at the time, and she came in like half of her body is covered in bruises. She'd had teeth knocked out, and started telling the story, and it was like so immediate that it was gut wrenching, and it was sort of too, like the audience didn't have enough. I mean, because they could see the bruises, didn't have enough distance to enjoy it as comedy. But I was blown away.
I think Natasha sees something dark, experiences something dark, hears something dark, and says, I can go darker.
Where at the end, where she says, but good news, everybody. they didn't know I was transgender. It wasn't a hate crime. They just beat me up like they would beat up any other middle-aged woman in the park.